Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I'm excited to speak to the gentleman I have on the show today. He and I have gotten a chance to connect over social media, and I'm looking forward to getting to know him a little bit better. But my good friend Ian McCall has joined me on Dad Up. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. How you doing tonight?
Doing well, doing well. I'm really excited for this conversation because I think it could go in a million different directions. So
Oh yeah,
I'm excited about it. But for my listeners who may not know who you are, let's talk a little bit about you, kind of how you grew up, the things that you're doing, how you got into the things that you're doing now, and then more importantly, about you and your kids.
oh man. So I grew up here in beautiful Dana Point, California, in South Orange County. I was born at Hoag Hospital in Newport. I've lived in Laguna, Dana Point, San Clemente. Now I live in San Juan. It's the border of Dana Point and San Juan, but it's San Juan Capistrano. Um, Grew up down here being a troublemaker. You know, people don't really understand how this place used to be. It's yes, we're part of the 1%. Um, come from an affluent background with a family member, or my grandpa was tied to the president of the United States, or he was the president of the United States, I should say, back in the day.
Huh.
So it's old rich white people, and for me, not following the family legacy, the plan, going to school for that long, I was the black sheep because I am learning. I like to call it learning disabled. I've been called on the spectrum by a doctor and just glossed over it and went on to some other problem that I have. Um, so I didn't really get to the root of it. I know there's people that are far more autistic than me. So, I was in a weird space where all I was good at was violence, was martial arts. All I was good at was fighting, realistically. And wrestled in high school, wrestled in college a little bit. I knew that's what I wanted, and that's really all I could pay attention to. So I just focused on that. I've been doing martial arts since I was 4 years old. Um, and martial arts is also what saved my life. I got caught up in the wrong crowd. We were in a gang around here, which sounds funny for being a bunch of rich white kids, but um, we were doing dumb gang shit, and pardon my language, but uh, I saw the light at the end of the tunnel when I started fighting professionally at 18 years old. That martial arts definitely saved my life. Um, had some major addictions in my life. I started taking pills when I was 14. This is part of my generation. 14 to 34 was addicted, and kind of that's what I guess was one of the drowning factors of my career in fighting. I became a world champion at 28 when I was sober. The one point I was sober, and just kind of fluctuated. I had a crazy rise to superstardom where I was showing up to countries like here in the U.S. or Japan or Ireland, and girls were crying. It's a weird ego spot to come down from. Luckily I had friends like Chuck Liddell, who's like an older brother to me and a mentor, was always like, "Hey, look, you're not that cool, just so you know."
I've had Chuck. I've had
He's
Chuck on the show.
yeah, he's been. Speaking of dads, he's the greatest dad I know. He really is, and he taught me so much how to be a dad. Our kids are a month apart. Um, which I've the love I have for that man is immense. He's such an incredible person, and the perfect person to model that sort of behavior. And for someone like myself, he pushed me. This is, you're going to be a world champion one day. This is how it's going to go. This is when you write your book. And this is how you talk to fans. And this is how you talk to the media. This is what you do with Dana. He was always, there, right over, his giant face right here in my life,
Right.
just talking to me or punching me in the kidney. Uh, but I had a great upbringing. Like I've got to the traumas in my life through psychedelics and psychology and all this stuff. And um, my life was great, until my mom left. When I was like 12.
Mm.
But I started to act out, and I started to be a shithead, and I started to cause a lot of trouble. But that's a whole different story within itself. But the whole time, my dad was always an amazing person. I had an amazing wrestling coach, and I had amazing fighting coaches. I've had amazing business mentors. And I've had a lot of really good men in my life that have helped me become the father that I am. That's what this podcast is about being a dad, and that's the most important thing in my life. Like I just got news my daughter's going to be with my dad's ex-wife, her other grandma this weekend, and I'm like, oh no. uh, luckily, I'll be my girlfriend is in town from Mexico, so I'll be preoccupied anyways. And plus, my daughter's grounded. She got in trouble with her mother, so it's like, I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm not going to fight it. She's going to go with grandma. Um, but the time spent with my daughter is it's the most important thing. That's why I have a girlfriend that lives in Mexico, is because my daughter is like my girlfriend. She
Mm.
gets all my resources, all my free time. Um, Everything that I am is for her. She asked me, like, you're retired. Why are you still chasing things? Why are you still, I thought you said you were going to retire and, it's going to be you and I. I'm like, yeah. She said, well, why do you want money? You have money. Why do you want to accomplish? And it's for me, it's business is a game. It's just like a fight. It's just this interaction I can have to win. For a while, specifically the last few years in psychedelics, as this burgeoning field and everything blowing up, people are like, you're going to be a billionaire. And the amount of people that told me in front of her, and she pulls me saying, why would you want that much money? And she's 11. She's just very smart.
Right.
So what are you going to do? What are you going to do with it? I was like, nothing. You're going to do something with it. I don't care about the money. You know, it's not the point. It's about helping people. And when she finally realized, because her mother's sober and we don't get along on the fact that I'm a drug researcher. My hat says not Pfizer, but it says psilocybin. I have a mushroom company that I own part of, and I do consulting in the space for whether it's pharmaceutical companies or retreats or coaching young athletes through their psychedelic journeys, or old athletes looking to retire, athletes looking to perform better. Um, that's my life's work, and it ties in with my coaching. I coach here at a gym in Dana Point, California, called Peaceful Warrior, where I coach jujitsu every day, and I coach kickboxing every day, and I go to the high school and coach wrestling, and I truly live a life of service. That is what I do, and um, I've realized that is the life I'm meant to live. That's the life that fulfills me the most, and that's the path the universe has set in front of me. That's why I have my whole coaching platform coming up, and it's important to see things from the perspective of the athlete. The reason why I have the McCall method is to work with high level performers. It sounds fancy. I work with addicts. I work with normal people as well. I teach the masculine. That's my forte, is teaching the masculine through the martial way. Um, Basically the exact opposite of like someone like Andrew Tate. It's about being a protector. And I'm not even here to poo-poo Andrew Tate. The guy makes, who knows how much money and has his following. And whether you like him or not, I don't really care. Um, my method is different. It's, Stoicism and philosophy from Hinduism and Buddhism and sure, Christianity. And there's just all these different philosophical views on um, being a man, being someone that's held to a higher standard. And these are even teachings that I give to females because they want to understand it. And a lot of female athletes, female performers have to be in the masculine while they do what they do, conquering things, riding, 100-foot waves, climbing into a cage and fighting people for blood money in their underwear. They do these very masculine things, and it's one of the overarching themes of what I teach, but it's also um, it's the way of life that I live. Is being that person that everything correlates back to my daughter. Is what would I do in front of my kid? How would I react to protect my daughter? And to be able to teach people to do these things is it's important. I'm lucky where I get to do consulting on a cool, illicit brand for microdosing because California here we can do whatever we want. DEA doesn't care. We can. There's a whole market for these things, But I also do scientific research for traumatic brain injury. The reason why I got into psychedelics, the reason why I learned every single thing I could about psychedelics and healing, um, before the spiritual side really in me picked up, and that I ran down that path, was traumatic brain injury research, because I was afflicted with very bad traumatic brain injury, and um, also sports performance. When I saw the benefits of mushrooms, we'll say specifically, I work with LSD and ketamine and other molecules like 4-ACO, DMT, all define these benefits for TBI and for sports performance. Um, Once I saw the benefits, specifically in sports performance, I was like, oh, this is a tidal wave coming. People are going to start using this. And then I started talking to the UFC, and I went over their USADA guidelines or their doping guidelines and realized they don't even test for this stuff.
Mm.
And then I went to the UFC in 2019, and I was talking to Jeff Novitzky, and I said, hey, man, you guys need to do a study with Johns Hopkins University, or you need to do a psilocybin study with the athletes. Maybe it was 2018. I don't know. It was a long time ago. And they're like, you're crazy, bro. Why would we ever do that? I'm like, well, you're doing a CBD study. You're doing a
Right.
CBD study that you left me out of because someone else paid you more money and they fucked it up, right? Exactly. So I don't have to do anything for the rest of my life. I'm fine. I'm not in this for money. The UFC knows that that's my only MO is to help athletes. And I said, you screwed up the CBD deal because someone else paid the money, paid an absorbent amount of money that I could never afford, and messed up the study. They didn't even do they. It was anyway. Besides the point. Sorry, I'm a researcher, and it's just frustrating. Um, from there, we kind of ping pong back and forth. Jeff's like, "You're crazy." Like, I know, but I'm dating a scientist. I work with all these scientific people. I work with all these organizations that are doing the research on this. Exactly what I'm saying. How to heal your fighters from the things that you're paying them to do. Because it's not just a TBI.
Mm.
It's back to the trauma of climbing into a cage in your underwear and fighting someone for blood money. You're giving and receiving PTSD the whole time. If you get knocked out or you get, the shit kicked out of you, that's PTSD. If you hurt someone, it's called TITS, trauma induced trauma syndrome. And it's not good for you. All that stuff embeds in our tissue and then will fester and turn into something else later. And then also on top of that, what was the driving force to make you a fighter in the first place? What happened? I don't need to know. That's an open-ended question. What happened? Because we are the most traumatized people in the world that choose this path. That I mean, I don't mean to downplay anyone else's trauma, but there's varieties of it. We'll say levels to it. So finally, when I got on a call with Jeff, and I already knew what I had to do to set this up. He goes, okay, I'll give you a chance. He goes, if you can get me a major university and some scientific structure behind this, we'll take it to the table. And I said, good, here you go. Here's the FDA. Here's Johns Hopkins. Here's Unlimited Sciences. And he was like, damn, you're okay. I showed him all the paperwork, and he was like, all right, well, come out to the fights and we'll talk. And he goes, I'm having my housewarming party. Just get out here. So I went out there, and the woman that I was dating at the time is a UCLA professor and scientist, and I knew that me talking about it wasn't going to work. So I had to take Jeff, to go get beers after the fight, and I put her in front of him and push the on button. And she's a lecturer, and she's speaks on TV selling products and very good at speaking. She broke it all down, and Jeff was just jaw on the floor, like, "Whoa, this is real. You're going to give fighters mushrooms." And I didn't even bring up the sports performance part. I was just talking about TBI. And as we progress through this, he starts going, "Hey, man, fighters are coming up to me and telling me that they're taking mushrooms, microdose before this." Um, and I was sending him tons of literature, and he gets it. And, um, there's a lot of people in the UFC that specifically take this Argos product. It's a gummy. Um, and they don't take a bunch of it. That's the part. A microdose is subperceptual. It protects the brain, it heals the brain, and it leads to a better performance, a flow state. And the UFC knows that. Other sporting organizations are coming around to it. The study that I set up with Johns Hopkins got screwed up because two large organizations couldn't come to terms. UFC doesn't have enough people with brain damage. Johns Hopkins wanted these certain parameters which couldn't be met. And what it comes down to is the fact that once those meetings were set in stone, they were like, well, cool, man, thank you, good job. And they closed the door in front of me because I don't have some shiny plaque on my wall that says I'm a doctor or scientist, which hurt at first very badly. It also hurt seeing this study not come to fruition. But the reason it didn't come to fruition was because I wasn't a part of it, was because I wasn't doing outreach. Because I'm sure they sent an email or talked to some fighters about it. And fighters think, if you test my brain and you find I have brain damage, you're going to fire me. You're not going to let me fight you. That's not what we're doing. You're going to fight no matter what. You're a product for this company. You're a commodity. They're going to trade with you. But if we can get analytics on all this, it's very important. So it's about me coming back to the table. I'm still trying. I'm now working with the University of Miami. We're not even testing anything yet. We're working up towards it, and I'm building a case study. Miami found out what I was doing. They found out the study fell through, and they reached out through somebody that was a mutual friend, and said we'd like to give it a shot. And I said, cool. Well, no, not happening. I'm not taking another deal with the UFC without having this set in stone. I need a case study. So now we're looking to set up a case study with fighters, or more importantly, bare knuckle boxing. All the major bare knuckle fights are in Florida. The athletes would have to go from the fight directly to the University of Miami, and we could run analytics with some really amazing machines they have now, and then we could figure out the dosing protocol we do, whether it's a week or 2 weeks, and get these athletes paid to be there. That's a big part of it. And that's especially bare knuckle people don't make any money. It's kind of crazy. So now that's the path. I set these balls in motion, and it's coming to the realization that I will never be allowed in some of those meetings, ever.
Yeah.
As it hurts, but at the same time, I don't want to go back to school. And mom's like, yeah, just go back to school. You can do it. It's fine. Like, just cut costs a little bit. You'll be good. I'm like, I know, but I'm not going. If I wanted to reach my peer level in this space, the people that listen to me, the doctors and scientists, if I wanted to get there, I barely graduated high school. I would have to do a decade of school. And I don't have time for that. And by the time I get that education or that piece of paper, the industry will have passed me up.
Right.
I'm getting my first certification in if it's a Being True to You is a integration coaching platform where I can have at least one cert, so I can work with some veterans and get paid for it. Not like actually get like an actual check for it. And be part of the system and just have a certification for once. But I came into the understanding that I'm a coach. Ayahuasca showed me almost 2 years ago that you need to get back to coaching martial arts. You need to get back to Kung Fu. You need to really fall into the coaching category because that's what I'm best at. I was coached my whole life. I mean, from world-class people of all types, whether it's business mentors, life coaching. I just finished a course with Mike Bayer. He's always on Dr. Phil's.
Yep.
And that had me sober. I was at Mike's house training him, and he sat me down. He goes, you keep taking L's, man. As your friend, like, I want to help you. You know what I do for a living, right? And I was like, yeah, you write books and you hang out with Phil, Dr. Phil. He goes, no, you dick. He's like, I make people very successful. And I was like, okay. And I know the laundry list of his clients, and I just know Mike as a person. He's great. And he goes, if I enrolled you into my program, would you do it? So of course. He goes, okay, 2 caveats. Number 1, you have to show up twice a week. Number 2, you have to be sober for 90 days. And everyone knows that I smoke a lot of weed. I take mushrooms all the time. I'm a drug researcher. I'm a psychonaut. push the envelope on psychedelics. And I was already thinking for months, I'm like, I need to stop smoking. I need to not take any microdoses. I've already gotten everything I needed out of this. And I need to practice what I preach. And that's exactly what I did. You know, it was a good relief. You know, now, of course, the life coaching program I'm a part of is like, hey, you should probably do some serious medicine work while you learn these integration techniques. And I'll get there. I have a giant mushroom ceremony next month on the Indian reservation in San Diego with my shaman.
That's cool.
He's not a he doesn't like the word shaman because it's become a buzzword. He's a healer. His name is Shane Norte. He is on the board of directors for Deep from Nature, and we go into his wamkish, his little teepee without a top, and we take really high doses of mushrooms. So I'm taking my lawyer down, I'm taking my brother down, taking one of my pro surfers down. I'm hopefully going to take a fighter down with me as well to do some work, and then I can get to doing what I do best, and that's coaching. You know, giving them preparatory work where they prepare for the journey itself. They talk about intention setting and journaling, and make them write out a movie script of their life, sort of thing. There's a few different options that I give them, and we go over it all. And then after the trip itself is when the real work starts, because the mushrooms, the ayahuasca, the whatever ketamine is just going to crack you open, and you have this giant fissure within your chest, this giant opening where all your traumas are just in there, and you're like, oh shit, I can see these. Like, I should probably deal with this stuff that's in there. And a lot of people don't. That's where it's done wrong. Like, look at Will Smith, for instance. And I don't mean to pick on anybody, but Will Smith and Aaron Rodgers. Will Smith did ayahuasca 14 times in 1 year, which is super inappropriate, especially for someone who's never done it before. And then he came home into a toxic relationship and obviously had no integration coach and ends up doing what he did. And then you have Aaron Rodgers over here, who works with a friend of mine, Aubrey Marcus. Aubrey used to sponsor me, and I've worked with Aubrey in the healing side of things. Aubrey's incredible. His whole team is incredible. And to know how well they work in the space, Aaron comes out of this and becomes a 2-time MVP, Super Bowl MVP, or NFL MVP, whatever it was. I don't watch sports. I just know he achieved some cool stuff. I barely watch fighting. But of course I know who he is. And of course I've listened to him speak on Aubrey's podcast and on some other shows. And that's the way it's done right, is you go sit with, as a Westerner who I'm a Westerner who serves medicine from time to time. I tell people, don't sit with Westerners. We all have ego. We all have these things that are the programming, the constructs of our life. If you go sit with an actual Mazatec shaman or Native American shaman or Shipibo shaman, they are not like us. Mm-hmm. They're not. They're different because they were raised in this lineage. Yeah. It's not like, oh, I took a course online and now I give people mushrooms in the desert. And we talk about chakras and the moon. And I have a friend who is well-intentioned, and he does that. And we're at lunch the first time I met him, and he's talking about it. And I was like, fuck, dude. I was like, you give people mushrooms? Like that big of a dose? And at least he's educated himself enough. But I'm like, oh, when did you start doing this? He's like, oh, I took mushrooms for the first time during the pandemic. I wanted to shake him. Like, you should not be doing this, bro. And out of all people, he's good. I mean, he just has a lot of things in place. Is a very good person. Is very well intentioned. But if you look at it from the other side of the coin, how many people do not want to go sit with they don't want to go to the jungles and go sit with this little tiny brown person that has you don't know what language they're speaking, they're like, if you go sit with some Shipibo people, they're different. They're little jungle people, and I love them so much. I can't wait to go sit with them again. But they're different. They're it's magic what they do. It's just so hard to explain the things that I've seen, and I believe in science. That's what I've always said. I'm so happy there's things I can't explain that I've seen. And a lot of people don't want that. A lot, especially people like the coasts are different. California is its own country.
Right.
Everyone here is on mushrooms and smoking weed now. If you go, 100 miles inland, they're do they don't want to hear about chakras. They don't want to hear about aligning your this and that and the other thing. They don't want to hear about energy. um, One thing I picked up on working for Better You Ketamine was people want their medicine from a doctor. They want to take it in their own house by themselves, and they want to be left alone because the mental health crisis that's happening um, in this world and the country is affecting everybody. Yeah, sure, I get to hear the athlete side of it a lot, but for a while I was working with the average person daily, like 10 people a day over Zoom, wearing my little therapist shirt, looking cute. Um, and I got to see a different side of psychedelics, the therapeutic pharmaceutical model of the everyday American. And the awakening's happening. It is. We need Western people giving medicine. We do. They're the conduit to the actual source. We need pharmaceutical companies turning these things into drugs, because that's the only way we'll be able to break down certain barriers. We need people like Will Smith screwing up and Aaron doing the right way, because no matter what, Will Smith can do no wrong. He's Will Smith. He's a great person. Yes, should he be, you know, held accountable for what he did? Of course, we all should. Should Chris Rock be pissed off because a dude like a foot taller than him smacked him in the face and embarrassed him? Yes, I get it, but um, he's gonna be just fine. He needs to leave his wife, that's for sure. He needs to get out of that toxic environment, but that's up to him. We need these examples of what to do and what not to do, because then we can make the right choice. There is no good, there is no bad in this universe. There just is. And once we can actually understand that, especially understand humans, it's just humans doing human shit. It's just the human condition. Life becomes a lot easier, man.
Yeah. Well, you covered a lot there in the stuff that you're doing. And I do want to talk about it. It's funny, you're talking about Chuck Liddell at the beginning and what a great dad he is, and the stuff that he does with his family. I wanted to just kind of share a quick story with you. I was talking to him. We were kind of setting up the arrangements for the podcast, and he was literally in the middle of picking up his kids from school. And he's like, oh, hold on a second, I'm picking up my kids. And so, just those little things like that just shows me the kind of dad he is. But you're talking about your daughter, and you have this goal of not just being a successful businessman, but also serving others in the way that you serve the athletes that you work with and the various individuals that you work with and coach, but also being a serving dad to your daughter and teaching her valuable life lessons as you progress in, kind of this business and scientific space. I want to ask you though, when it comes to specifically to your daughter, and we're talking about the things that you're doing on the scientific side when we're dealing with psychedelics and things like that, mushrooms and stuff, what kind of conversations are you having with your daughter about the overall drug use and things that kids are now getting into with, even, drugs to even simple things like vaping, that kind of stuff. Let's dissect that a little bit, because with your experience and also being a dad, that's an important conversation for you as a dad to have with a daughter, especially a preteen daughter, right? So yes. How are those conversations go?
So her mom is sober. Like I said, she works in recovery. Both of us had very, bad drug addictions for a long time, but we get along, very opposing views. And I tell her the truth. I know her mother is sheltering her. But I understand what a young woman in her shoes is up against. I grew up here in Orange County, LA, with you know, you have celebrity parents, you have celebrity grandparents, and celebrity great grandparents. You know, myself and her mom, and then you have her dad, her grandpa was a pro hockey player, married a supermodel. My ex-wife was raised in a $50 million house here in Laguna Beach. You know, she has a bunch of grandparents who are extremely wealthy, access to these things. Um, I've been chasing those girls around my whole life, those exact sort of women. And I see the pitfalls of being in Hollywood and doing things like cocaine and just that like toxic, toxic lifestyle. Um, and number one, I tell her, look, no drug is bad. It's just a molecule. You can't blame the drug. You have to blame the person. You can't blame the drugs for your mother and I fucking up in life. um, you can't sorry, someone called my phone. You can't blame, a substance for any of that sort of stuff. You have to blame the person. You have to get down to the traumas. And everything I preach in life to my clients, she lives. She just does it. And obviously she's too young, but I'm like, look, if one day, if you ever feel the need to try something, you do not try it without me. You come to me for it first. Okay, because I'm going to be there and make sure you're okay. My house is a safe place for you to do whatever you want, because I know your mother's going to lord over you and go through your stuff and watch over you and make sure that no, like you can't hear this, see this. And like, no, that's not how I'm going to treat her, because then she's going to run to it. Then she's going to want to try because it's a forbidden fruit. But she she was there when her mother overdosed. She's seen me all fucked up before as a baby, as a kid. Like these aren't good looks to show your child, but maybe they are. With a kid that has two addicts for parents and has access to all this stuff. She needed to see that to show her the pitfalls of it all and to go like, look, like I don't want this. And she had to take she had to take cannabis at a very young age, pardon my words. She got very sick with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And the way we healed her was diet and exercise first, and then cannabis. And we're talking high dose cannabis. And getting stoned with your toddlers, kind of funny, but kind of not. Like it's it was a really hard time in everyone's life. And sorry, my housekeeper's here. She was sorry, I'm on a podcast here. Come on. And she needed to see, this happen to herself and to us. And she also she's been stoned before. She was stoned at 2 years old. And, the other day, I shouldn't say the other day, a few months ago, she didn't feel good. And I'm like, okay, well, I can give you cannabis oil if you're in pain. Her arthritis wasn't flaring up or anything, but she just looked at me and goes, no, Dad, I don't want to get stoned. I don't like being stoned. I was like, perfect. Well, trial by fire. Right. Maybe I got you a little too baked as a baby. But those are the things that we had to do instead of putting her on painkillers, methotrexate, which is a chemotherapy drug, anti-inflammatory drugs. I saw the benefit of cannabis, and it worked. It worked really well. And she's learned that these, whether it's caffeine, whether it's sugar, whether it's cannabis, whether it's microdosing, that these things should be used with intention and should be used properly, and that there's a whole process behind everything. She's constantly hearing stories of her mom's friends relapsing that she works with, or even my friends. When my friends fuck up, I tell her. I don't sugarcoat anything. I don't hide anything. I tell her the truth, whether it's sex or drugs or whatever. I tell her about it all, and she saw an ex of mine have psychotic breaks, so she's cool. Thank you. Gracias. She saw, an ex of mine have really gnarly psychotic breaks, and not because of psychedelics, but the psychedelics didn't help. Psychedelics made it worse. And she's had all these things happen in her life where they're examples.
Mm.
And that's, again, that's life. No one gets through this human path unscathed. Everyone has the human condition. Everyone gets abused in some way, shape, or form, traumatized in some way, shape, or form. And through those stressors in her life, she's become very strong, very, very, very understanding, um, and not only educated, but the personal knowledge you gain from these things. Um, so, yeah, I mean, I'm sure one day she'll want to try weed, or she'll want to try mushrooms, or maybe she'll let me take her to the jungles and do ayahuasca. Maybe not. Maybe she's just one of those kids that's boring and doesn't try any nectar of life. But I tell her, I'm like, honestly, like you have to know, if you're a beautiful young woman who's growing up here, that's going to go into the city, into Los Angeles, and you're going to party, you're going to hang out. You're probably going to go to my friends' nightclubs because they own everything there now. It's only, like, as weird as that sounds, I'm sure it'll happen one day, because my buddies are, the next thing for them to buy is hotels. We've got hotels in LA all over, clubs here in Vegas and everything, and it's not, so I just have to make sure that she understands it all, and that she um, hears the truth about it. Like, I was honest with her. She brought up cocaine, and I was like, everyone does cocaine around here. All the parents, all the young adults. Like, when it comes out, I shouldn't say all, but most of them do it. And it sucks, because it's a drug that is something that kills people, or people die for it. And the molecule itself, cocaine, isn't bad. Like, realistically, it's not. It's just a molecule, but it's tainted with a bunch of bad shit. You know, it's tainted with bad energy, of people literally being murdered for it.
Mm.
So you have to understand, whatever you're putting in your body has repercussions, not just on the chemical level, not just on, oh, this could have fentanyl in it, this could kill me instantly. Like, there's a lot of things that we go over with it all, and I just have this open dialogue with her to tell her the truth, because I don't like hiding things from her.
Yeah. No, it's all through education, and I like to say that more is caught than taught. So the fact that she experienced the various things with trauma, with you and your ex being her mom being, addicts, the experience of that around that has, shifted herself to not just want to not have anything to do with it, but also want to be educated on. And the fact that you're talking to her about those things and having really honest, hard discussions with her is great. I want to shift gears a little bit, because as someone who's been in the martial arts industry basically your whole life and experienced at the professional level, what kind of experience does she have with defending herself? And then furthering that question, from not only defending herself, but what do you teach her about not taking it too far? Meaning, if not being the aggressor in an instance, maybe out in the real world, not being the aggressor, teaching her not to
Yeah.
hit, when it's not necessary. So what kind of conversations do you have with her about those? Because I think that's important for parents to understand when it
Yeah.
comes to our kids. I have two boys, 24 and 21, and through their whole lives, I've made sure that they understood how to defend themselves. But I also made sure that they understood that you're not going to be a bully or an aggressor. But if you have to defend yourself, you have my permission. So,
Yes. And she's been able to defend herself forever. She knows how to kick, punch. This year she took, or last year I should say, she took silver, she took fourth, and she took bronze at the Jiu-Jitsu World League.
oh, cool.
So she's one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners for her age and her ranking in the world right now. Southern California has the best, pardon me, the highest level of competition for kids, for sure, on the planet. And she does it just going blasé, like, oh yeah, whatever, I don't care. I'm like, I know you don't care, but she's definitely a competitive person. She she loves jujitsu. She does it a couple days a week, and she's also placing in these tournaments by only doing jujitsu like 2 days a week. And these other kids are homeschooled. Well, she just got into her first actual private school 5 days a week, but she was homeschooled as well. But she didn't. She has a horse that she rides. She has a couple horses. Um, so her main focus is not jujitsu. It is riding her horse. And I said, once you get better at riding your horse, then you can stop doing jujitsu as much. Um, but there's been times where she's had to physically take care of a situation, and I know that she has a good outlook on it. I know that she's a protector, not a predator. That's the main thing that I teach is be a protector. Be a protector of the people around you. I'm holding you to a higher standard because of the things that I teach you and because your other coaches teach you. You are more resilient. You're stronger. You're smarter. You have all these attributes because of jujitsu, because of kickboxing. She goes, Daddy, I know that I wouldn't be the person I am today without jujitsu. She's verbalized it more than once. And to hear those words come out of her mouth, it's just like, ooh, perfect. That's it. You know that your life is relatively easy in certain ways. You get to go to, you know, whether it's her family compound here in Laguna Beach, like I was telling you, it's ridiculous. It's got its own private beach and pools. It's all over Instagram. If you look up secret pools in Laguna, that's their property. It's not public property. People sneak into it all the time, but they're like the waves actually crash into their pools. It's really cool. You get to be there. You get to ride horses. You get to go to my family compound in Tahoe or wherever. Like you have a really good life. You need to go above and beyond because you have all this stuff, because you come from this world. People are going to hate on you no matter what. No matter what. People are going to dislike you right off the jump just because of one of the things I just said, one of the multiple things that are in your life. They're all positives, people are going to hate that. They're going to hate you for it. So you need to go up and out of your way to be the best person possible. You need to be the best big sister. You need to be the nicest person in class, the nicest person on the mat. You need to be intelligent. You need to be kind and caring and have friends of all walks of life. Like the other day, she brought home for her first sleepover at her new private school. She brought home the troubled girl, a girl with a mouth like a pirate. And they're 11, but they act like they're 16. It's just the kids have leveled up in education and understanding of things. And they were talking. One of the first things they brought up as we're driving to get food, they said titty bar, and I was like, "The fuck did you just say?" Like, yeah, titty bar. I'm like, you know? And they go, "Yeah, strip club." I was like, "Ha ha ha! Wow, you already know what that is. And you're 11." I was like, "Okay, well, asking me, "Have you ever been to a strip club, Dad?" And I'm like, "Of course I've been to a strip club. Like I'm a fucking adult." And fighters usually be paired up with strippers and porn stars. Like that's how it all went down back in the day. We were looked at the same. So I have these open conversations with her about things, and I'm happy that she brought over the troubled kid, the adopted kid, the kid that's that needs a friend, that needs help. Like I'm that I want to bring those kids in. Like I tell the parents in my gym, "Oh, my kid's causing a lot of trouble. Do you think this would be good for him?" I'm like, "Yeah. Oh yeah. Your kid, this is the island of misfit toys.
Right.
This is bring me your troubled kid." Because at one point I was that troubled kid in this exact area, running these streets and getting arrested and beating people up and I was crazy. I was robbing drug dealers and I was doing all kinds of really, really gnarly shit that most people would never fathom. But I don't want anyone else to go down the path I did, because by the time I was done with life, with my career, this illustrious career that I completely fucked off and blew so much opportunity, I had a gun in my mouth. I had a physical loaded gun in my mouth, and I was going to kill myself. And through the addictions and brain damage and everything, the one thing that kept me from doing it is my daughter. She's the only reason I'm alive to this day. Literally the only reason. And I thank her for it all the time. Like she knows it. She knows she's the only reason. And I have a bunch of other cool people in my life. Great stuff, great everything. Money in the bank, and a great family and great friends. And I live in Orange County. You know, um, but she's my reason for living, and it'll continue to do so. There should be that thing forever. I'm now looking to create a more of a family with my new girlfriend who just came up from Mexico. Um, we're looking to move her up and start maybe having some kids, and trying to go down that direction, because now I'm ready to be a dad.
Mhm.
Now I'm actually like, yes, I can do this. I would love, a couple sons, or even a daughter. I don't care what it is, but I would love another child or two to really, you know, really try it again, because of course we all make mistakes, and I'll make more mistakes. It's how it works.
Bro, I
Um,
make mistakes today to this day, and I've got 24-year-old and the
yeah,
21-year-old. I'm still making
yeah,
mistakes. So
exactly. So it is what it is, and to learn from those mistakes and say you're sorry and do all the right things is important. So
yeah.
I'm just happy to be here and be alive and be in my little rocking chair right now.
Right. That's awesome. Well, look, Ian, I know you've got a busy day ahead of you. I want to let you go, but if my listeners, viewers wanted to look you up, learn a little bit more about you, what's the best place for them to do that?
Instagram is Ian McCall, or you can look at my website. It's called The McCall Method, McCallMethod, or if you're gonna put the on the front of it. It needs to be redone, but there's tons of articles out there on it. And I've been in Forbes twice. I was on HBO. There's a great little docu-series or documentary on athletes and psychedelics that we did, and Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. Got the cover of LA Weekly. There's some really cool articles out there that talk about the path and what we're doing. Um, and I'm excited to share. We're shooting a documentary this year. My coaching platform should be out by the end of the year. And yeah, we got a lot of cool things in the works. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Well, listen, my friend, I'm glad you and I got a chance to connect. And like I said before we started recording, I meant that you and I need to get together and break some bread together, man, and just kind of get to know each other
Please.
a little bit more. So I'm looking forward to growing our friendship, but I appreciate you being on.
Me too. Thank you very much. And we'll get some dinner soon.
Awesome. Well, listen, guys, you've watched another or listened to another episode of Dad Up with my good friend Ian McCall. I just want to thank him again for being on the show. Make sure you guys are checking out what he's doing. You can go to his website or go to his Instagram. He's very active on Instagram, so you can find all the links there as well. And I'll make sure to have them in the show notes. But if you are not subscribed yet to my show, please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single guest that I have on each and every week, like Ian McCall. Just phenomenal guests sharing life stories about the things that they've done. And not only that, but also their experiences being a dad or a mom for that matter. So I appreciate you guys watching, viewing, wherever you're at. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at Dad Up Podcast. Until next time, everyone, Dad Up.